For more than a century, the most powerful people in the world have trusted one tiny country with their biggest secret: their money. Politicians, dictators, billionaires, and even spies, all bound by one quiet rule. What happens in Switzerland stays in Switzerland. But what if I told you that behind those immaculate vaults and silent bankers lies a shadowy system, one that has shaped wars, toppled governments, and rewritten global finance, all under the banner of neutrality? Because the truth is, Swiss banking secrecy wasn't just about privacy, it was a weapon, forged in conflict, sharpened by greed, and protected by law. And while the world thought Switzerland was simply neutral, the real story reveals something far more complicated. So, how did a small, landlocked nation with no natural resources become the financial fortress of the planet? And what secrets are still locked away inside those vaults today? Our story begins in the 1800s, Switzerland. A patchwork of mountains, lakes, and multilingual cantons. It was a quiet, neutral backwater. It had no empire, no colonies, and no real industry beyond watches, cheese, and precision tools. But what it did have was trust. The Swiss were seen as discreet, reliable, and detached from the chaos of Europe's wars, and that reputation, neutrality, would soon become the foundation of a multi-trillion-dollar empire. By the mid-1800s, wealthy Europeans, especially the French, began depositing money in Swiss banks to protect it from political upheaval and taxes. But this wasn't yet the secret Switzerland we know today. That came later, born out of fear. World War I shattered Europe. Governments were desperate for funds. Currencies collapsed. Taxes soared, and many of the rich began looking for safe havens for their fortunes. Switzerland, neutral, stable, untouched by war, became their destination. By 1918, Swiss banks were flooded with foreign capital. But then came a problem. Governments wanted that money back. France, Germany, and Italy started investigating Swiss banks for helping citizens evade taxes. Swiss bankers were even arrested in Paris for violating French laws. So, in 1934, the Swiss fought back, not with weapons, but with a law. This law, known as the Banking Secrecy Act, made it a criminal offense for any banker to reveal client information to anyone, including foreign governments. It was a masterstroke. Suddenly, Switzerland became the Fort Knox of privacy. You could store your money there, and not even your government could touch it. But behind this privacy revolution was something darker. The law was passed the same year Adolf Hitler came to power, and during the years that followed, Switzerland's banks became key players in one of the most controversial financial networks in history. As Nazi Germany waged war across Europe, its economy ran on stolen gold, much of it looted from the central banks of occupied nations, and, tragically, from victims of the Holocaust. But where could the Nazis turn to convert that stolen gold into usable foreign currency? Enter Switzerland. Officially, Switzerland was neutral, but in practice, its banks, especially the Swiss National Bank, became the financial middlemen for Nazi gold. Between 1939 and 1945, Switzerland bought over $400 million worth of gold from Nazi Germany, worth tens of billions today. Some of that gold came directly from the melting down of jewelry, coins, even dental fillings taken from concentration camp victims. Swiss bankers claimed they didn't know, but the Allies disagreed. After the war, the United States accused Switzerland of helping the Nazis sustain their war machine. Still, the Swiss denied wrongdoing and quietly kept the money. It was an uncomfortable truth that the world ignored for decades, because while Europe rebuilt, Switzerland prospered, and as the 20th century unfolded, its reputation for discretion, not morality, became its greatest export. The post-war years were a golden age, not just for the world economy, but for Swiss banks. In the 1950s and 60s, capital controls, high taxes, and unstable currencies plagued Europe. Meanwhile, Switzerland offered something irresistible: stability, low taxes, and total secrecy. Numbered accounts, known only by digits, allowed clients to hide their identities even from bank employees. Vaults beneath Zurich and Geneva filled with cash, gold and bearer bonds. Swiss banking became the art of invisibility. By the 1970s, an estimated one-third of the world's offshore wealth sat in Swiss accounts. Dictators from Africa, drug lords from Latin America, and royalty from the Middle East all parked their money there. Even the CIA used Swiss banks for covert operations, and multinational corporations used them to hide profits from taxes. But this secrecy came at a price. It turned Switzerland into a magnet for corruption and crime. And it was only a matter of time before the world began to push back. The 1980s and 90s cracked open the illusion of innocence. In 1986, the Marcos family, rulers of the Philippines, fell from power. Investigators traced billions in stolen funds to Swiss bank accounts. In 1996, documents revealed that Swiss banks had withheld money belonging to Holocaust victims and their heirs. The global outrage was immense. Under U.S. pressure, Swiss banks eventually agreed to a $1.25 billion settlement with Holocaust survivors. It was a symbolic victory, but the damage to Switzerland's moral reputation was done, and yet the vaults still held. Because secrecy wasn't just a law anymore, it was a culture, woven into Swiss identity, protected by politicians, and enforced by centuries of trust. Until the 21st century, when digital transparency and global pressure began to tear it all apart. The 2000s changed everything. The world was no longer run on paper ledgers, but on data, and data leaves trails. Governments worldwide were losing trillions in tax revenue to offshore accounts. The U.S., in particular, decided enough was enough. In 2008, a scandal erupted. A whistleblower named Bradley Birkenfeld, a former banker at UBS, exposed a massive tax evasion scheme helping wealthy Americans hide billions in Swiss accounts. His testimony shattered the myth of unbreakable Swiss secrecy. UBS was fined $780 million, and hundreds of clients were exposed. Then came FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, forcing banks worldwide to report U.S. citizens' assets. It was the beginning of the end. By 2018, Switzerland officially ended its tradition of absolute secrecy. It began automatically, sharing account data with tax authorities from over 100 countries. The age of the secret Swiss account was over, or was it? Because secrecy never dies, it simply moves. As Swiss banks faced scrutiny, the game shifted to new players: Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, the Cayman Islands. These jurisdictions adopted Swiss-style privacy with 21st century speed and deniability. Meanwhile, Switzerland reinvented itself, focusing on wealth management, private equity, and crypto custody. In 2022, leaked documents called the Swiss Secrets revealed over $100 billion in suspect accounts still hidden within Credit Suisse. The clients included human traffickers, corrupt politicians, intelligence agents, even sanctioned individuals. So even after years of reform, the ghost of secrecy still haunted the Alps. Because for the ultra-rich, discretion isn't just a service, it's a form of power, and no one understood that better than the Swiss. Swiss secrecy didn't just hide money, it reshaped the world's financial system. By normalizing offshore finance, Switzerland helped create a global shadow economy worth over $11 trillion today. That's money not taxed, not tracked, and not reinvested into societies that produced it. It distorted inequality, empowered dictators, and weakened democratic accountability. Even today, the world's wealthiest 0.1% hide an estimated 10% of their wealth offshore, much of it once routed through Swiss banks. So, when people talk about Swiss neutrality, they often miss the truth. Switzerland wasn't neutral in wealth. It was the referee and the banker, a country that built an empire not on conquest, but on confidentiality. Fast forward to today, and history is repeating itself in new forms. Crypto exchanges now promise the same kind of secrecy Swiss banks once did: untraceable digital assets, offshore wallets, anonymous ownership. Sound familiar? Even Switzerland itself has embraced crypto finance, marketing itself as Crypto Valley. It's the same formula: innovation, neutrality, and discretion, updated for the blockchain age. And just like before, regulators are always one step behind. We're living through the rebirth of Swiss secrecy, not in vaults, but in code. Behind the elegance of Swiss precision lies a paradox. The secrecy that protected fortunes also shielded crimes. While dictators looted their nations, their citizens starved. While corporations dodged taxes, hospitals and schools went underfunded. In the end, secrecy always has victims. You just can't see them from the Alps. So, what can we learn from Switzerland's secret vaults? Lesson 1. Neutrality isn't innocence. Switzerland built an empire by staying neutral, but that neutrality often meant profiting from both sides of every conflict, moral or financial. Lesson 2. Secrecy is power. From gold bars to crypto wallets, Those who control information control wealth, and those who hide wealth control influence. Lesson 3. The game never ends. It only evolves. The Swiss didn't invent secrecy. They perfected it. And now, new digital vaults are rising, from blockchain networks to decentralized finance. The players have changed, but the rules remain the same. For centuries, the world trusted Switzerland to guard its money and its secrets. But perhaps the real secret was this: you can't lock away morality in a vault, because once secrecy becomes currency, someone always pays the price. So next time you see a Swiss flag, think of what it really represents. Not just peace and neutrality, but a quiet power that has shaped the world from behind the thickest vault doors on Earth. If you found this story revealing, share it. Because understanding how secrecy shaped our world is the first step toward transparency. Hit like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover the hidden systems that still decide who wins and who pays.